يا أيها المدثر قم فأنذر وربك فكبر وثيابك فطهر والرجز فاهجر ولا تمنن تستكثر.
What can I call you, brother?
You can just call me Yap.
Yap. Nice to meet you, Yap. And do you believe in God right now?
Yeah, I'm a deist.
Deist. Awesome. Cool, man.
Yeah. So I'm not a Muslim because I don't think that there are any good arguments for Islam.
Okay. So why do you need an argument?
I would need some kind of like justification for why I should believe in it. Like there's no good arguments for Islam.
No, but why do you need an argument? Why does it have to boil down to an argument? Have you read the Quran?
I've read Surah Al-Baqarah, I've read Surah Al-Kahf, Surah Al-Maryam.
Yeah.
But I mean,
So you haven't read it through?
But
Why not?
you ask like, and after reading Surah Al-Baqarah, like it's just like, it felt like it was just jumping from topic to topic. It felt like it was stuffing so much in like one chapter. It kind of felt like all over the place. And Surah Al-Baqarah was just long, bro.
Yeah, of course it's
really
long.
just,
Yeah. Well, the first third of the Quran really is primarily jurisprudential rulings and issues and stuff like that come up as examples and kind of where it go from there. How about the principalities, right? So do you believe that there's only one God?
I mean, yeah, I would say so. But I mean, I that's subject to change. When I
Subject to
say that I
change?
believe, yeah, that's subject to change. Like if someone could prove to me that there are multiple gods, then I could adopt that view. And also, before you asked why I need an argument, well, an argument is just going to be a series of premises that lead to a conclusion. So I don't see any like good reason is another way of putting it to believe in Islam, right? That's what I mean when I say there's no good arguments.
Okay, well, if you're not firm on the belief of one God, then we have to kind of take things step by step. Do you think that it's a rational possibility for there to be more than one God?
I mean, at the moment, I don't. I believe that God is going to be defined like as a necessary being. And
That's fine.
I
That's
also
fine.
would think it to be the case that like God is a pure actualization and like a maximally great being. So
Okay.
if there is two maximally great beings, then there has to be a distinction between the two, and that means one of them is lacking in something. So then that means both of them can't be maximally good. So at the moment, I don't think that it's possible to have two gods. But like I said, like if you could give me an argument for it, that could potentially change.
Okay, so see, I appreciate your openness and wanting to change your mind, but I think that certain things there's no shift, there's no good argument that somebody can give you for polytheism, right? I mean, it seems like you solved the puzzle yourself just by reflecting on what you just said, right? If there was two maximally perfect beings, then one of them would have to be lacking in some way, shape, or form, right? Because there'd be a power struggle. Like, for example, if someone said, okay, I want the sun to rise from east to west like we've got right now, and then another one says, I want it to rise from west to east, or one said, I want creation to begin, and the other one said, I don't want it to begin. You're stuck at a stalemate, right? And if one of them has to yield to the other in any way, shape, or form, then you'll know that there can't be more than one, right?
Yeah, but there's still arguments that people can make for like a lesser god, like a god that just isn't as powerful as the maximally great God.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Now the question is why would you worship something less? You already admit that he's lesser. Why would you do that? Why would you like go and worship something lesser than the supreme?
I mean, I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
This is
Well,
kind of outside of the scope of like
it isn't, because you're dealing with the first pillar of Islam. You're dealing with La ilaha illallah. And if you can't get past that, if you can't get through just the basic idea that there's only one deity worthy of worship, then I can see why you're kind of upon confusion. and why you're saying I need these syllogisms and I need this, this, that, and the third. Like, what? I don't understand. If you can't just take a position and just say, hey, listen, there's no other way other than there being one deity, then we can explore who that deity is.
Well, I mean, like I said, right now, I do believe that there is only one God, and that's what would be possible. So I just
Possible or necessary?
that's what would be necessary, actually.
Oh, right. So that's now we're firm, right? We're totally firm on that, which is great. I totally agree with you. I think it's absolutely necessary that there's only one deity. Now, do you believe that this deity had communicated with us? Do you believe that this deity revealed himself to mankind?
No,
You don't believe so.
you know,
How would you know
not
he exists?
through natural reasoning.
Okay. So then you think that he just created this space and now he just left us alone to our own whims and desire?
Well, I don't even believe that he has agency to begin with.
What do you mean by
Well,
that?
I don't think that like this necessary being has to have a mind or any kind of agency. Like he
Was
doesn't
it
have to have a will or
was a
anything.
choice made?
No, it
How are you
just
here?
it's something that occurred.
By what?
Do you know who Spinoza is? I'm a Spinozan. I hold
Uh,
to his view.
No. So explain to me how something just occurred.
Um, when do you want me to explain like the metaphysics of how the universe started?
No, 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 no. I want you to explain how you just said that it's necessary for an all-powerful being to exist, but that all-powerful being didn't have the capacity of choice. Do you have a capacity of choice?
Yeah, I sure do.
Okay, and so you have something that the all-powerful being doesn't?
Well, it's not gonna follow that if I have something, then the thought like then God must necessarily have it. Like, would you say that God is capable of doing evil just because you're capable of doing evil? And
No,
also,
because so now the issue that you're going to run into is that God is inherently good and maximally perfect. Okay, you're not. So the playing field that was laid out for you was laid out by the one that had the choice to lay it out in the manner in which he befit best. Right. So you saying that me being able to conduct an action of evil doesn't necessitate that he has to have the ability to conduct the action of evil is insinuating that there is some type of inherent evil within him. But you're making a categorical error. He's maximally perfect and all good, and you're not. However, choice is different. This is a neutral category, right? Meaning that it's not inherently evil. The idea of choice is what your intention is and what it leads to. What outcome does it lead to, right? So if you can't solve the idea of choice and you have something that is neutral and not maximally perfect, then for you to say that this is just a coincidence or just an action that he didn't have control over, now you're going to run into the issue that you had previously by saying, or should I say that the example that you gave previously is he's not maximally perfect anymore because there must have been something that gave him that instruction where he didn't have a choice in. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah. So, um, it might have been an unintentional straw man that you might have did there, but I don't actually believe that he has a will to begin with, let alone a choice, right? A choice is something that's facilitated by a will and agency. So if he doesn't even have these things, then there's no such thing as a choice. Like that's irrelevant when it comes to my framework. And in the same way that like within your paradigm, because God is maximally good, he cannot perform evil. It would be logically contradictory. In that same way, within my paradigm, because God doesn't have agency, there's no such thing as a choice. So there's no issue.
Yeah, but if there's no such thing as a choice, there's no such thing as good and evil. If there's no such thing as a choice, there's no such thing as creation or a beginning of creation.
Yeah, I'm a moral anti-realist.
Okay. Well, what is that supposed to mean?
I don't believe that there are objective moral truths.
But yet you believe in God?
I believe when I say God, I'm not, maybe you might be thinking of like a classical theistic view. I don't believe that God is omnibenevolent. I don't believe that he has agency. I don't believe he has a will. I don't even, when I say God, that's just going to be in reference to like a necessary being, right? But a being doesn't necessitate like a mind or like agency. Like
Okay.
if you knew Spinoza's view, it would make this more clear, but basically it's almost like a pantheistic view, but it's really not.
A pantheistic view, but it's really not, and it would be made more clear. I'm sorry, I'm having a very difficult time understanding you because it seems to me that you're speaking a lot, but you're saying like quite little. So either
Yeah.
you believe, when you say that you're a deist, you believe that there is a deity above you, correct? Meaning that there is something in the hierarchy that you came from, correct?
Yeah, being, yeah.
Okay, and now you're saying that that being, okay, did not have the capacity of choice, but yet he created choice. Because you as a creation, you have choice, but that being didn't have the ability to choose, but a byproduct of that being is the creation of choice.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, I
that
don't
doesn't
know.
make any sense to me.
Why does it follow that if we have something, then God must necessarily have it? Like, for example, if the necessary being that you hold to created physical things, does that mean God himself is physical? It doesn't follow that.
So you are you are a creation in a manner, right? You are created in a physical manner. I'm not saying that God now it must be that God has to be physical. That's not what I'm telling you.
I don't understand.
Because God chose to create you in a physical manner, okay? You are the one that's adopted the quality of it being physical. It being you. You are a physical being. You understand? So
Yeah.
everything that you're saying is reinforcing my idea that God had a choice, right? You could have been some other way, but you were created in a physical way. You could have been a pure spirit, for just very loose terms, right? Spiritual, whatever, ghost type thing, but you're not, right? You are a composite being that consists of a soul and a physical body. You could have just been a soul. So a choice was made. The earth, the universe, the known universe had a beginning in time. So a choice was made when the beginning of time started. It could have been 10 years later, it could have been 10 seconds later, but a choice was made and it started when it started.
Like again, I don't know if it's an unintentional like straw man, but you're going into an internal critique on my framework, but then you're presupposing that God must have a thing called a choice. Like I said, God doesn't even have agency, let alone a choice.
I'm not going to an internal critique. I'm telling you from the outside why it doesn't make sense.
But yeah, from the outside, you have to presuppose your views, but like I don't accept your views. I don't think that God has agency, so I don't know why I would grant that.
Okay, so
Also,
how did we get here without agency? How did you become the way that you are without agency? Help me understand, because I genuinely just don't understand what you're saying. You're just basically saying that everything was purely by act, but there was no choice behind the act.
hmm,
Okay, and where's your evidence for that?
what do I don't need to bring evidence.
Okay, so you just
What
believe it
evidence?
off of blind faith.
No, I mean, I told you I can bring natural reasoning for why God is a necessary being, but I don't think that there are any good arguments for God having agency, God
Okay,
interacting with the world, or being Muslim. That's kind of what
okay,
I wanted to come up here to talk about, actually.
no problem. So you said a natural reasoning, right? So what in the natural observable universe helps you to determine that God doesn't have a choice?
Contingent things.
Okay, is God contingent?
No, it's going to be in the case that God is necessary.
Okay, if he's necessary, okay, what now transmits to his acts being necessary? Are his
What?
acts contingent on choice?
No, God, like I said,
Okay, so where's your evidence for that?
God would be pure actualization. If he's necessary, then it follows that he must be pure actualization. So
It's
then,
not about his being, sir. It's about yours. We're talking about the natural universe. You can't naturalistically identify what God's act is apart from what the consequence of what you can see from it. Meaning that if you have choice, right, the consequence is there. So you have the choice. You can't have him be a supreme being in a maximally perfect way, and you yourself have something that he doesn't.
And why is that going to be what's going to be the argument for that?
I just told you, if he's maximally perfect and he had to synthesize something for you and you have something over him, which is the choice, how is he now maximally perfect? Because he's lacking the very thing that he synthesized.
Yeah, I already gave you an analogy before. It doesn't follow that
The
if we
analogy
have
doesn't
something.
work, sir. You use the analogy of
Can I-
evil and you use the analogy of physical form, assuming the presupposition is that he is inherently evil and that he inherently has a physical form.
No.
Okay.
I don't know. That's not what I was saying. Can I
I'm
explain it
sorry
really
that
quickly?
I'm having a very difficult time understanding you, because what's happening is you're jumping into just sophistry and you're not just looking at the world for what it is. Yeah,
Can I
you
explain
are.
really quickly?
Sure, go ahead, pal.
Okay. So the reason that I brought up the physical and the evil analogy was not because of what you said. You're arguing that because we are capable of performing some kind of faculty, then it follows that God also must be capable of performing that same faculty,
Mhm.
right? I gave you an example of evil. Obviously, because God is perfectly good, he cannot perform the faculty of evil, right?
Mhm.
So that's one thing, right? But I understand that God is going to be perfectly good, so he's not capable of that, right? But you're arguing that because we're capable of something, it follows God must be capable of it, right?
Mhm.
This is one example.
So again, just to pause you for a second, when you say, see, here's what you're doing. You're attributing evil to God, and I'm attributing to the creation of it to God. Okay, so God can create a plane where there is good and evil. You have good choices and bad choices. You have good beings. You have bad beings. But
Wait. Believe
so
God created evil?
yeah, absolutely. God created everything. Why would God not be the creator of evil? It's just the absence of good.
Is that what Muslims believe, that God created evil?
Is shaitan evil? Do you
Yeah.
have good and evil choices? Do you have good deeds and bad deeds? Do you have sins?
What sect of Islam believes this? What part of what? I didn't know
So
that you guys believe this.
how else would we how else would you get judged? How else would there be a test? If there's not a possibility to conduct an evil act, how else would you get judged?
Do you understand like the implications of saying that God created evil? Like that's extremely
Yes, what's the
problematic.
implication? Why is it problematic?
Yeah, for one, if God is going to be the source of all evil, then he's going to be the one that's ultimately accountable for every single
Yeah,
evil action.
no, see, again, now what you're doing is you're attributing the choice of people to God. Okay, and you keep doing this. And I keep trying to tell you to stop doing this. Just because something is created, okay, such as choice, good and evil, such as consequence, good or evil, it's now not saying that God is conducting this action. You're the one that's conducting the action, but God has created it in his realm as a possibility. So you have the possibility of doing things that are good, and you have the possibility of doing things that are evil, right? The possibility was created, but to attribute it now, the act of good to God or the act of evil to God is something different. And that's where you're running into an issue.
Yeah.
You're looking at everything from a pantheistic point of view, and you have no evidence for that. You're just picking, the works of, I forgot who you had mentioned, and you're just saying, "Oh, this must be the case," but you have no evidence for it.
No, so I might have been again another unintentional straw man, but I never actually said that.
Okay.
I never said he performed an act of evil. I never said that. What I
Okay.
said is he's the source of all evil, right? Because he's the creator of all evil. That's all I'm arguing, right? I never said he performed an evil action. So that's the first thing I need to clear.
He's the source of everything.
Yeah, that's
okay. But now what?
Understand like the implication of that is like.
Again, you trying to restate it in some type of an emphasis just shows that you have a misunderstanding. The misunderstanding is now you're attributing everyone's actions to him as if you don't have choice. Do you understand?
But he's
Okay.
literally the source of all. That's what sect. I'm sorry. I just really quickly. What sect believes this? Because I'm pretty sure I talked to Muslims before. They told me no.
I don't care who you previously spoke to. I can't speak on their behalf. Okay, but Salafism is not a sect of Islam, brother.
Athari.
So
Athari. It's not a sect. It's not a sect. It's
so
technically
listen.
It's more of like a creed, but still.
Right. So now, just do me a favor, okay? When you have a dialogue with me or anybody going forward, just engage with the person that's in front of you to the capacity that you can, right? Because saying things like, I've spoken to so many, to have this type of an emotional impact factor, that's not going to fly, okay? We're still stuck at the idea that you're attributing every single action to the creator because that makes things purposeless. And we don't believe in a purposeless creator. Our creator does things with purpose. So the question is quite simple. Do you believe that choice was created for a purpose and that choice is directly on you, meaning the consequences of what you do based on your intentions and the desired outcome, not the actual outcome, but the desired outcome is what you will be judged on. The reason why I say that is because life in its entirety becomes purposeless if you think that there is no such thing as choice, and it doesn't matter what moral code you follow. If you say you don't believe in morality, which eliminates the whole idea of an examination. There's no difference between act. There's no difference between me donating to charity or, committing some type of harm to somebody. There's no difference from your worldview. And that doesn't make sense to me.
Like I said, I'm a moral anti-realist, and also I'm a determinist, so I don't even know what you mean by choice here.
Okay, so you're a hard determinist.
Yeah.
Okay, did you have the choice to come on this panel?
No, I didn't.
You didn't have the choice. You did not take the necessary steps to read the prompt and to come up here and have a conversation?
Yeah, I can have the illusion that I have a choice, but in reality, I never had a choice. I'm a hard determinist.
Do you have the choice right now to stick around or leave?
Nope.
You don't.
Determined. That's the point.
Okay. So I think this is a good place for us to stop, because if you think everything is determined for you, then we're not going to pave the way for progress by just not having genuine answers to these very simple questions. If you don't think you have the choice to say, hey, listen, I feel like eating some cereal, or I feel like eating a granola bar, but no, something is hard determined for me. Rather, the possibilities of you obtaining these things may be hard determined. So for example, whether or not you wake up tomorrow or not could be a hard determination, right? Statistically speaking, you should, and I wish you a very pleasant and long life. But for you to say that you don't even have the ability to say, hey, I'm going to stick around, I'm not going to stick around, that's just, then having this conversation is pointless because you don't have any choice.
Well, I mean, I kind of wanted to come up to just hear like a good argument for Islam. Can I get that before I go?
Yeah, the good argument for Islam is that you have choice and you have hope, and that you should go along the lines of worshiping one creator who is maximally perfect, all powerful, and supreme, and has created you and put you here for a purpose and doesn't do things purposelessly.
But that's not unique to Islam. You can find that in almost every other religion. I want to know,
Like
why
which
should I
one?
be a Muslim?
Like which one?
Christianity, like Judaism, like
No,
Hinduism,
no,
all of these things.
no,
What?
that's not the case. How is that the
So
case for Christianity?
Just to be clear, the case you're arguing that it's not the case that within the Christian paradigm or any other religious paradigm, God didn't create them with purpose. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I said. I said a maximally perfect supreme being. So let's start with just there. A maximally perfect supreme being that's absolutely one. How is that in Christianity?
Well, I mean, like I said, you can find that in any other religion.
Okay, so again, now you're just dodging the subject, right?
No,
it seems to me you're making a choice to dodge the subject, right?
No, it's just,
so was it a hard deterministic thing that you're dodging the subject?
No, it's just that you kind of want to commit me to Christianity when I mentioned
You're already committed. You're a hard determinist.
No. What?
Are you making a choice to not believe in Christianity? Hold on. Are you making a choice to not believe in Christianity?
What are you saying?
Are you making a choice to not believe in Christianity, sir?
Am I making a choice? No,
yeah. Bro. Are you making a choice to be a deist?
No. That's
are you making
it of determinism? I don't get it.
Right. Get it. So No, see, but here you don't get it. When the inverse is given to you, you're making a choice to have this conversation. You're making a choice to say, I want an argument. What do you mean I want an argument? Want is not in your paradigm.
Why
What
is
do you
want
what do you
not my
mean?
paradigm? I'm
Because that's a
just looking at
choice.
what you're saying, bro.
A desire. Do you have a desire for things?
I can like have an illusion to want an inclination, like to
Okay.
do something.
No
But
problem,
like
sir.
it's just
So just reflect
wanna
on
know-
reflect on what we discussed. I'm sorry, I can't have a conversation with someone that's disingenuous. Do you exist, sir?
disingenuous.
Do you exist? Do you exist?
Do I exist? Yeah.
Yeah. Are you sure that that's not an illusion?
Yeah, I'm positive.
How are you positive on that?
I can doubt my existence.
You can doubt your existence?
Therefore, I exist.
Okay. So do you exist or do you not exist?
I absolutely exist.
How do you know you're not a brain in a jar?
That doesn't matter. I still exist.
How do you know it's not just an illusion and we're just two brains in a jar doing some type of, bizarro telepathic communication on these stupid things called computers?
That has nothing to do with my existence.
No. How do you know?
What do you mean? Yeah, let's say that I grant that, right? Let's say that I really am a brain inside of a vat. I still exist. That has nothing to do with my existence.
No, but as you are, you exist as you are, or is this world an illusion?
This world.
Yeah, so this world is an illusion?
Do you want me to prove I exist or not?
No, I want you to prove you're not a brain in a jar and this whole world is not an illusion right now. Like, how are we not in the Matrix right now?
Why are we jumping from thing to thing to thing?
Because I want to show you that the entire conversation that you're engaging, you're actually making choices, but you're making choices without knowing it. That's why.
We're just like going from we're just spurting from thing to thing. I just want to know why I should be a Muslim. That's it. That's all I want to know.
Okay, because it's the most rational approach. It's the most rational and reasonable approach to believe that there's only one deity worthy of worship, that this deity did have a choice, that he revealed himself to us through messengers, and that we are to follow that message.
Okay, and what's going to be the argument for it being the rational way of believing in these things?
I just told you, you have messengers that reveal the message, and you can go read the message and test the product. So what you did is you said, hey, I opened up this chapter and that chapter, and I was bored because it didn't make any sense to me. And then when I said, okay, so it makes sense. So why not finish the Quran, bro?
I mean, sure I can, but I don't understand how this is an argument for Islam.
Because you have two positions. You have your hard deterministic position, and then you have the evidence of the Quran in which a choice was made, right? The choice of the supreme deity revealing himself through messengers. I don't understand why you're laughing. Like, what's so funny?
I'm not.
Okay, I just like the chuckles are just they're very disingenuous, right? So you have two worldviews, sir. You have one worldview where you think it's hard determinism and that God didn't have a choice, and then you live in this natural world in which you can see the consequence of God's choices, such as His messengers, such as the book that was revealed. Okay. And you can explore what this message states. And then you can come to a rational conclusion that this deity exists and that he did make a choice, which throws your worldview out the window.
Okay, let's say that it does my worldview out the window.
Right.
I don't understand why it follows that I must become Muslim. Let's say that...
Okay, so are you no longer a deist, sir? Are you no longer a hard determinist?
No, I'm just granting that for the argument. Right?
Okay.
So
you're granting that for argument. You have this see, this is what's common that I found on this platform is people have this argumentative mentality. When you actually are standing upon, and I mean this with all due respect, just compound ignorance from basic principles. So you would still argue for the sake of arguing, not for the sake of properly acquiring knowledge, just for what? I'm here to invite you to Islam because it's the most rational step to take in this life because there's overwhelming evidence for it. Okay. And you're sitting here saying, I just want to argue. I don't get it.
No, I never even said those words. You were the first person to say that.
Okay.
What I'm saying here is that I don't think the evidence that you've provided is sufficient. I don't even think it's close to sufficient. And I'll explain to you why.
Okay.
Firstly, let's say that a person comes up with a religion like a year ago, right? And they claim everything within the Quran and they claim everything within Islam as a whole. They claim that there was prophets, they claim everything, right? What makes Islam unique? Why should I believe in Islam? Let's say in another possible world, there was an Islam replica, but it was called...
We don't need to go into theoreticals or possibilities of another possible world. Just work with the one that you have.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So now what makes this
Just really quickly?
go ahead.
Let's say that I grant literally every miracle in the Quran. Let's say that I grant literally.
You don't need to grant any of this stuff, sir. You start with the principles. You start with the principles. You don't have to grant all these things to try. You don't know these things. You haven't read the Quran. You can't say I grant the entirety of the Quran. If you grant the entirety of the Quran, then you just accept it to be true. This is the thing, is like you've gone like trained or indoctrinated into speaking a particular way. So okay, here's one for it. The evidence of the preservation, right? The evidence of its divine origin and its preservation.
I didn't even get to finish though. I just wanted to say that like I will grant all of your arguments that you made before about it being the most rational approach on worshiping one God, the prophets and all of this, right? I'll grant that. How does it follow that Islam is true? It came from God just because of that. I don't see how that follows.
Okay. Now what you have to do is you have to explore the message. Okay. So you can falsify it, right? Or at least attempt to falsify it. Okay. You can take falsification tests to see if there's any contradictions in there. You can take a falsification test to see if there's anything that speaks of future events in there. You can take a falsification test to see if there's any errors in there where it gets just debunked from whatever it's claiming. Okay. So for example, one of the falsification tests that you can take is whether or not it's preserved. Okay, because the Quran claims that God Almighty is the one that's protecting it, and He is the one that's going to preserve it. Okay, so if there's any lack of preservation, now you can say, okay, this is clearly not from God. Okay, so now what have you done? What steps have you done to attempt to falsify it? Right now, all I've gathered is you read 3 separate chapters, and I'm taking your word for it. I don't actually believe you've read them in their entirety. And now you all of a sudden said, hey, you know what? This is just not for me.
No, that's not the conclusion that I came to after reading the Quran. I didn't decide that Islam was false after reading it. But let's talk about your falsification point, right? Let's say that I go through every single prophecy and every single historical attestation that we have for the preservation of the Quran, and I find out that the Quran is perfectly preserved, and I find out that prophecies are true, right? I will grant all of this, right? How does that prove that Islam came from God? That doesn't prove Islam came from God.
So if how does it not? How would a mere human being who's not who is claiming, because you have to look at the claim. The claim from the Prophet ﷺ was that he was speaking to an agent that was an all-powerful agent who had knowledge of things both past, present, and future. Okay? So now, if there's things that are being said in there, such as prophetic statements, that no person on the planet could have known at the time, and they're still holding true till today, what's the alternative, sir?
Well, there's plenty of people in history who weren't religious figures that made prophecies, and the prophecies came true. And there's several historical manuscripts that are perfectly preserved.
Sir, you're ignoring my question and you're bringing a new one. You're doing a whataboutism. What about this guy who made this? Was he wrong in any way?
Repeat the question.
Was the person wrong in any way? The philosopher or whoever you're speaking about, were they wrong in any way?
No.
With nothing that they said?
No.
Okay, who's the person you're talking about?
There's Benjamin Franklin, who predicted that we would have
kind of technology. So stop for a second, sir. Did Benjamin Franklin claim that he's speaking to God?
No.
Did Benjamin Franklin claim that he's receiving revelation from God?
Nope.
Did Benjamin Franklin produce a... No, see, because the point is you're taking no, sir. The point is that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam had claimed that he was receiving revelation from God, and now you test his claim. You don't sit there and go read Benjamin Franklin or a book of Harry Potter or whatever and say this is clearly God's book.
Well, no, that's you. I don't think you understand. That's literally my point, that Muhammad claimed that it was from God and he had a prophecy. It was fulfilled. Benjamin Franklin didn't claim it was from God. His prophecy was also fulfilled. So that means a prophecy being fulfilled isn't sufficient evidence.
Benjamin Franklin is not a prophet, sir.
No, the
prophets prophesy.
Prophecy. No, the point is a prophecy being fulfilled isn't sufficient if someone who's secular can make a prophecy and it gets fulfilled.
Okay, so sir, somebody can make a guess, okay, and that guess can be accurate. But that doesn't now mean that that person is now speaking for God, right?
That's my point.
The difference, sir, the difference is one person is claiming that he is speaking for God. So you're going to hold him to the standard of never being incorrect.
How can you prove that Muhammad spoke to God? The only way that you can prove it is by his prophecies being fulfilled. Well, secular people.
Okay, so I think what's happening now is we're just going around in circles and you're not actually listening to what I'm saying. I think we're talking past each other. So it's a good place for us to stop, sir. But I'm glad that you had the choice of bringing up Benjamin Franklin. And I'm also glad that you had the choice of reading the Quran. And I'm glad you had the choice of coming up on this panel. I wish you all the best. Thank you for being cordial. I hope that you reflect on the things that we discussed. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to guide you.
Amen. Thank you for having me up here. Can you tell your chat to chill, bro? They keep like adding me saying crazy stuff, bro.
Sorry, sir. I haven't paid attention to the chat. I'm just having a dialogue with you. I try my best to foster the best community possible, but they have a choice whether or not to be mean to you or not, right? So anyway.
I wouldn't say they have a choice. But anyway.
Okay, well then if it's hard deterministic, you can't tell them to chill out because they're just, there's no consequence, right? There's no, you don't have feelings. You shouldn't be hurt, right? So like, anyway, brother, you just said, don't worry. No problem. No problem.
You have feelings, but no decisions. Anyway, see you.
No problem. So no problem. Take care of yourself.